My name is Matt Krotz, and this is another video in a series I'm putting out to share some of what goes on in the making of this ancient Roman adventure comic called KYRIE. So now when it comes to telling stories from this period, you gotta have some Roman soldiers in there too, right? What am I talking about? So we're talking about the middle of the 3rd century, when soldiers dressed a little less iconic, a little less like what you expect, like that image I just showed you. Really has to do with the increase in this period in enlisted men from the provinces, conquered territories, filling up the ranks at the legionary level, really up to many of the top leadership positions. And this affected weaponry. So you're going to see soldiers with longer, like Celtic style swords. You're going to see a lot of spathas this time period. And you're going to see it affect armor a lot. This sort of lorica segmentata typical look that people usually think of when they imagine a legionary, you know, with the kind of heavy iron, steel, brass on the outside and bands all over. It really kind of falls away, or at least gets kind of lost in the mix as you see chainmail, scale mail. That's going to get more common. You're also going to see a assembled variety of leather tunic and cloak, sometimes cloth over the mail if they're wearing that, so it's not gonna be obvious that they're wearing armor. It's always it's reflecting the sort of diverse backgrounds basically that these new soldiers from this period are really bringing from their homelands, from all over the Mediterranean and beyond, and importing into the legions. So you can tell I get a kick out of talking about this stuff. And it's it's fun. It's this cultural change really goes right up to the top. This sort of cloak that you see here, sort of shorter, fastened at the right shoulder, draped over the left. You see it even on this guy getting eaten by this fish. You see it all over the place. If it's not the exact cloak, it's often being worn in that style. So it's basically the original cloak was something called a caracalla. It's a sort of cloak that the Gauls were known to wear by this period, and the Gauls were all over the legions by this period. So we know of an emperor who by the beginning of the 3rd century, he was hanging out a lot with the legions. He affiliated himself so strongly with them that he wore this sort of cloak. I've got him right here. And this emperor had a suitably long and Roman name, but really we only call him Caracalla, because by this point dressing like a soldier in some sense really meant dressing like a Gaul. So clearly I get a kick out of this stuff. So you can really get an impression, as you can see from the sort of art that's been made over the years. The attempts at recreating armor of the time. So there's a good variety of armor and weapons and clothing too. Just depends on where the legionnaires are from, where they were stationed, and there's so much to learn really from the people that recreate this stuff for reenactments based on archaeology, the surviving literature. It's pretty neat stuff too. So this is sort of helmet that was more common than not by this time. The helmets are really getting, I guess, more safer by this period. So they're getting, in other words, they're getting heavier, they're getting bigger, thicker. This sort of helmet I got on most of the soldiers that aren't part of naval attachments in Alexandria and Libya. So you've got a broader neck guard, as you can see, much broader than probably what you're used to seeing. You've got shin guards that really kind of, when clasped together, really kind of fully encompass the neck. Pretty neat stuff. It almost starts to remind you of later medieval type helmets. Pretty neat, but they're still chin straps and they're still kind of tied together with leather. It's not like a single piece by this period. So anyway, let's talk about Tersius. So he's the main character that is a soldier, that's a legionary, and talk about a bit of his character in a bit. Just wanted to show you how some of this research kind of goes into his design. So this is super early. This is from way back when I hadn't really figured out the style well, much less I'd done enough research yet. But you can see Tersius on the right here. That's Marcus on the left. I decided early on, because of how this story progresses, that Tersius is from the northern edges of the empire, so he's going to sport a Celtic mustache to go with his red hair. His name changed a couple times. Here he is, back when he was known as Tersius. But Tersius means third in Latin, because he's the third child of his family. Comes up a bit in the story later on. Without going into spoilers, he also has a black eye for more than a couple chapters. It's a bit of a nod to one of my favorite characters in one of my favorite Disney movies, Yao from Mulan. Yeah, so eventually I figured out I wanted him to look, have a more of a portly, shorter shape, a bit stockier. I got him a face that works well with a grimace, which he has a lot of the time. This would be a good moment to just kind of tell you just a small preview about all these characters and how they relate to Tersius, how he relates to them. Let's see. So all four of these main characters here, you meet them in other videos. They're all kind of foils in different ways to each other. And so Tersius, he's really centrally motivated by loyalty. That's his big thing. Loyalty to the state and to the legions and to the ideals, really, that Rome, as he thinks of it, represents. So that puts him in conflict with Mazik here, who's of a prince of a nomadic Saharan tribe that often does business with Rome out of necessity, because it's the only well-paying employer in town, but really resents the empire on principled and philosophical grounds. And he also has tribal reasons. His tribe, which is actually an historic tribe from the period, they had led a couple of rebellions and uprisings over previous couple hundred years, and had been pretty soundly squashed by the Romans. So he's got a number of reasons to resent Rome, but he's got a kind of a personality that he's smiling as often as Tersius is frowning. Basically, He's usually looking for an opportunity to take a jab, Tersius, and his ideals about loyalty to Rome, something that Zeke finds abhorrent, but puts a fun spin on it. So he's well read, and for instance, and he'll throw Seneca and Pliny in conversation in order to make Tersius look bad. If he can think of a quote that contradicts something Tersius is saying, you can tell I have a lot of fun with that. So they have an interesting relationship. So Tersius also comes in conflict with Marcus. Marcus has something of a notorious past that the military in North Africa just knows all about. Pretty infamous, Marcus is, and Tersius considers him a danger and a threat because of it, and he's kind of incredulous about even having to travel with him. So that provides some fun dialogue. And he also, of course, conflicts with Myra, because Myra, unlike Tersius, Myra really doesn't have any loyalties to anything. She's principally just motivated by what she hates and what she avoids. She reserves also a special kind of hate for soldiers, which gets explained later on in the story. And so that provides a lot of conflict and a lot of fun storytelling, let me tell you. So all that to say is Tersius just kind of starts out not getting along with anyone he's traveling with, because they all, in their own different ways, kind of represent what Roman culture and really the governing elite at the time wanted to suppress and reform, and were spending a lot of time and attention suppressing and reforming, because this is that time in the traditional arc of the Roman Empire where it's before the fall, but it's at the height of the decline period, as it's usually thought of. So things are getting seriously insecure and hostile throughout the Mediterranean world at the time. Really, new diseases, massive inflation, incompetent leadership, public disapproval of the military, serious concerns about military engagements in the Middle East. It's pretty interesting time. Oh, and religions, strange religious cults from the Middle East kind of popping up and making Roman establishment feel pretty insecure as well, because a lot of these some of these religions seem pretty copacetic with Roman traditions, and some of them very much didn't. So you can see how that sort of thing leads to good storytelling. So here's what the legionaries usually look like. It's kind of a sampling of what they look like when they're on land. So we've got that broader helmet, heavier helmet that I showed those reenactors wearing. You've got a variety. You've got a scale mail. You've got the banded steel and iron chest armor with leather as well. You've got the longer Gaulish swords, no spathas to be seen. You've got rounded shields. Yeah, and let's see. So I had a bit more fun with this guy. So if I remember correctly, Praetorians, the kind of the elite Emperor's Guard had been very much disbanded by this point, by 250 CE. But this is my kind of, I guess, me having fun coming up with a class of soldier that acted as bodyguard to Senator Valerian and others of the senatorial class. And here's the naval legionnaire. So you've got a smaller helmet. You've got a kind of very like a short scale mail shirt for the leadership. You've got steel shoulder plates. You've got leather chest plates, and you've got pants and shirts. Very Celtic, very Persian, and not very Roman. At least it was. Well, it was Roman by this period. You wouldn't think it was Roman if you were from the previous centuries, but that's some of the fun of research. So here's Tersius finally. So he's a bit higher rank than the typical legionary, so he's got that. Let's put a bit more detail on him. He's lost his Gaulish long sword, but he's got the little leather strap for it. So he's got the mix of steel, leather, cloth, pants and shirt situation going on. And yeah, so that's it. So gosh, I really appreciate you checking out this video. Hope you like what you see. As you can tell, I try to have a fun mix of research and creativity. It kind of keeps things going, and but I like doing both, and I just like storytelling. So you can tell, hopefully, with this sort of thing, that I'm trying to tell a good story. So please, by all means, follow me on any of these, or and contact me. Let me know what you think of KYRIE if you're reading it. I really love to hear your feedback. It's a fun project, and yeah, so I hope you like it. So anyway, thanks again, and check out more videos, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.